Good Friday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Well, cloudy skies, a little colder out this morning than it was yesterday at this time. We have 13 degrees on the barn thermometer right now, looking for a high approaching 20 degrees here on the farm. Again, with that breeze, though, the wind chill does make it feel like it's in the single digits, and it will probably feel that way through the better part of the day. A couple quick calendar reminders. Tune in at midday today as Dale will be broadcasting with our monthly update from Farm Credit Mid-America. Also, we will be broadcasting from the Ohio Ag Business Association Industry Conference coming up next Wednesday. That's all powered by soy biodiesel. And an open house will be taking place for the complete liquidation of Wellman seeds. That will be held next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, January 28th and 29th from 9 to 3 in Van Wert and Delphus. For complete information, visit grainelevatorauction.com. Taking a quick look at your agricultural headlines, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on Thursday will not immediately force millions of businesses to now file the beneficial ownership information reports, according to the U.S. Treasury officials. The High Court overturned an order from the U.S. District Court for Eastern Texas from December that had frozen the Treasury Department's rule for filing beneficial ownership information with the Treasury Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. Still, there is a separate nationwide order issued by a different Texas judge that remains in place. Because of that case, the Treasury Department is currently not requiring companies to file their BOI details with FinCEN. The BOI rule affects more than 32 million businesses nationally, including an estimated 230,000 farm operations, and the rule stems from the 2021 Corporate Transparency Act, which requires businesses to provide their business information from state incorporation reports to FinCEN. The law was passed to curb financial crimes such as money laundering and fraud, and the initial deadline for the current businesses to file those reports was supposed to be January 1st of this year. That was initially put on hold by the Texas court. Well, now let's take a look at your Friday morning weather forecast, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com.
Decent sunshine here to finish the week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at your forecast update. Here in Ohio, we're going to be putting together an okay weekend. Mixed clouds and sunshine. It's cool but not cold. We got through the deep freeze earlier this week, and we're all okay. I think the weekend is going to be featuring temperatures that are closer to normal for this time of year and good sunshine. I cannot stress enough, the dry forecast is a nice forecast. Going into next week, Monday stays cool. We start to see temperatures really moderate Tuesday into Wednesday. By the time we get to Thursday, it's quite mild here, and our next round of precipitation is going to be a little bit of light rain, anywhere from a few hundredths to a few tenths coming through Thursday, midday, afternoon, and overnight. By Friday, we're cooling off a little bit again, and Saturday is the same way. By the time we get to Sunday the 2nd, warm air is back, and yep, more rain coming in. Can see anywhere from a quarter to 3/4 of an inch with coverage around 90% of Ohio, and that also ushers in a highly variable week for that first full week of February. I think we have Arctic air lurking up north that wants to break free. Warm air to the south. We are going to be stuck in the middle with this warm air versus cold air battle. That could produce an increase in precipitation, but it's also going to make us feel like we have to have 2 sets of clothes ready to go. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, this quick note from Ty Higgins at the Ohio Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau will be hosting a statewide CAUV update webinar. Now, the current ag use valuation has increased substantially following the 2024 reappraisal and update affecting 24 counties that are seeing new tax bills this year. Why are values increasing and how do property taxes respond? Well, you can join the Ohio Farm Bureau for a free webinar on February the 11th to discuss the recent increases in CAU values, information to help you understand the property tax system, and an update on legislative action. Now, many property owners saw their property values increase in the most recent round of reappraisals and updates, said Leah Curtis, Associate General Counsel for the Ohio Farm Bureau, who will be presenting the latest information on CAUV during the upcoming webinar. CAUV landowners saw their property values double or more in this last reappraisal cycle, while almost unheard of in residential or commercial real estate. Increases of this nature have not been uncommon for CAUV in the last 20 years. Now, the webinar will cover an update on the work of the state's Joint Committee on Property Tax Review and how the committee provided an opportunity for Ohio Farm Bureau to advocate for its members' policies related to CAUV and property tax reform. Registration is required to attend the webinar, which runs on February the 11th at 10 a.m. And to register, visit ofb.ag/CAUV 2025. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Ag News after this.
Hey, pork producers, it's almost time for the 2025 Ohio Pork Congress, your connection to all things pork. It's back in Lima, Ohio on February 4th and 5th with the latest on swine health, facility management, economics, and product innovation, all within the largest pork industry trade show in the region. So make plans now to join us at Veterans Memorial Convention Center by going to ohioporkcongress.org for more information and early registration discounts on tickets. We'll see you in Lima.
Taking a look at your agricultural headlines, U.S. Agriculture Secretary nominee Brooke Rollins told senators on Thursday that the USDA would be prepared to again provide aid to farmers if they face retaliatory tariffs as President Donald Trump implements his trade policies. Now, despite concerns about farm workers being deported, Rollins also told senators she supports Trump's border and mass deportation policies, but said she is willing to work with the Department of Labor and Congress to reform the H-2A migrant labor program. Rollins' confirmation hearing with the Senate Ag Committee was congenial and bipartisan, but senators raised concerns about the potential impacts of Trump's policies, especially around tariffs and labor. Now, some senators also pushed to ensure Rollins would support biofuel policies. In nearly every issue raised, Rollins had a positive response. At one point, Rollins said people have called her a pathological optimist. Now, a native Texan, Rollins was an advisor for Trump economic policies in his first term and gained more influence in Trump's world as the founder and CEO of the America First Policy Institute. Coming out of the hearing, it's hard to see Rollins not gaining broad bipartisan support for a quick confirmation vote before the full Senate. Senator John Boozman, chairman of the committee, asked Rollins early on about the impact of tariffs and U.S. agriculture already facing a $45 billion agricultural trade deficit. Rollins noted Trump obviously sees tariffs as a key strategy for negotiating with other countries. I think it probably comes as no surprise to anyone sitting in this room that he believes it is a very important tool in his toolkit to continue to bring America back to the forefront of the world and to ensure that we have a thriving economy, Rollins said. Asked how farmers would be protected, Rollins said she had talked to former Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue, who oversaw $23 billion in trade aid to farmers over 2 years, saying, "We are prepared to execute something similar." Rollins added she would also be working with the White House to ensure that we can close those holes for our farmers and ranchers moving forward under any sort of tariff execution. Rollins later reiterated to senators that Trump understands his support in rural America. At the end of the day, we all know him to be the consummate deal maker, not only for America, but for the ag community that supported him at 90% since really the very, very beginning. Senator Amy Klobuchar, the ranking member of the committee, noted to Rollins that farmers want trade, not aid. And Senator Adam Schiff also said California farmers received less in tariff assistance in 2019 compared to farmers from other states, despite heavy tariffs imposed on specialty crops. Rollins committed to ensuring that tariff relief would be distributed more equitably. Now, talking about her first 100 days, Rollins mentioned the $10 billion economic assistance Congress passed last month for commodity farmers. Rollins said she would make a fast and furious effort to ensure we move that economic aid out. That pleased Senator John Boozman, chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, who had pressed for that economic aid, and Boozman said farmers desperately need it so we can talk to our bankers and try to figure things out from this last year. Senator Richard Durbin asked about the deportation and raised concerns about farm labor. He said dairy farmers and orchards in his state have talked about the importance of immigrant workers. Durbin said 40% of the agricultural workers nationally are undocumented and pointed out that the America First Policy Institute championed mass deportation. Can we expect this administration to be raiding farms going after our immigrant farm workers, Durbin asked? Rollins responded that the president's vision of a secure border and mass deportations at scale is something that she supports. To counter deportations, Rollins said she would work with the Department of Labor and Congress to reform the H-2A migrant labor farm program. She She also said she has not been involved in creating any deportation plans. She could not say whether farms would be targeted, and she added that Trump will keep his promise on immigration, but also that he supports farmers. Now, regarding biofuels, Senator Amy Klobuchar first noted the Texas Public Policy Foundation, which Rollins had led for 15 years, also was critical of biofuels, including ethanol, in a series of policy papers. Rollins responded that those papers were written more than a decade ago, and she was not directly involved. She added that no doubt coming from Texas, she was a massive defender of fossil fuels and the importance of fossil fuels in the energy independence and energy dominance narrative. Responding to other senators, Rollins also noted that Trump's executive order on energy also included language supporting E15. Rollins also was asked multiple times about the 45Z Clean Fuels Production Tax Credit. She said she would work with EPA Administrator nominee Lee Zeldin on biofuel volumes and Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bassett on the 45Z credit. Now, responding to Senator Roger Marshall, Rollins said, "My role, if confirmed, is to defend all of American agriculture. So I believe that you and others who hail from states where this is a driver for your farmers and your ranchers and your ag economy should feel very confident that you have a friend and defender in this current administration to make sure this all continues." Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this. Morton Buildings is holding their annual Building Value Day sales event running now through the end of February. Morton Buildings are built stronger, last longer, and look better. So if you're planning for a garage, farm shop, stall barn, a storage building for your RV, boat, or collectibles, or anything in between, act now and contact one of their 4 Ohio offices by visiting mortonbuildings.com or call 800-447-7436 to take advantage of their current savings on select new buildings. Certain restrictions may apply. This offer is available on select building styles. Contact your local construction center for more details. Let's take a look at what's impacting our markets. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Phone 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the day higher, sharply higher on corn and soybeans. Wheat markets didn't participate very much, but we did at least see Chicago trading a little bit higher yesterday. So now we come down to this. How do we finish the week? We were well off of the highs as we kind of shut this market down yesterday, but we also did make new highs yesterday. So Friday is going to be the be-all, end-all. Let's start on wheat. Cash new crop hard red winter wheat is working into feedlot rations from July forward, basically on price. The U.S. and world producer has been a sizable corn, soybean, wheat seller on the rally amid slowing world grain trade. For the respective crop years, a world soybean trade is down 4% compared to USDA's forecast, which is up 2.4%. Corn trade is down 2.7 million metric tons, or 4.6% compared to USDA's annual forecast. And wheat trade is down 3.2% as world grain prices rise and users are pulling back on import demand. China is showing an absence as world grain importer right now, especially on corn. A year ago, China secured more than 16.6 million metric tons of Brazilian corn, with negligible purchases on the books yet today. Moving into the managed money fund position, brokers estimate that yesterday managed money were buyers of 2,300 contracts of Chicago wheat, 14,400 contracts of corn, 8,900 contracts of soybeans. No daily sales were reported yesterday. The U.S. weekly ethanol grind was up 11 million gallons from the prior week to 323 million gallons, up 34% from last year amid the 2024 Arctic onslaught that adversely impacted plants. The ethanol industry rose to 1.087 billion gallons on the stocks side, up 37 million gallons from last week. Otherwise, it was about South American weather, which looks good and favorable for harvest getting underway in central Brazil with a gangbuster kind of attitude. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how the markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. March corn closed up 5.5 cents, and May corn was up 5 1/4. March soybeans were up 9.5 cents, while May beans closed up 9.5. And March Kansas City wheat closed down 4 cents, while March Chicago wheat was unchanged, and March Minneapolis wheat was down 2. Taking a look at your overnight trade, the numbers are trending lower, with March corn down 3 1/4 cents at 486.5, and December new crop corn down 1.5 pennies at 4.62 3/4. March soybeans are trading down 10.5 cents at $10.55, with November new crop down 7 at 10.46 1/4, and wheat for March is down 4 cents at $5.50. The July 25 new crop down 4 at $5.74 1/4 cent. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Ohio AgNet.